Hello, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com, and it is that time again. It is Tuesday, December 8th, 2020, and that means it is time for Office Hours Ask Me Anything. I do not have any special guests today. Thanks to everybody who joined the last few weeks and did some special guest answering. We had Joel Barr, and then we had Darren Hood and Dr. Nick Fine. Today it is just me. I hope that'll be okay for you. Let's see, my effects aren't working. Let's log in again. There we go. Sad, sad crying. So I am usually here for about an hour, always starting at this time, taking whatever questions you have. You can ask these questions in many ways. In fact, let me get some of my screens up and running. You can ask on, believe it or not, on Twitter with hashtag DeltaCX. You can ask in the LinkedIn chat if you are on LinkedIn Live, though it's always better if you were on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, use the YouTube chat. And finally, if you have an anonymous question, you can use the URL that's on the screen. And in fact, you can use this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is totally anonymous and will email me your question so that if you have something sensitive you'd like to talk about, your work, your manager, yourself, you can send it that way. And that way we don't know who you are and we don't know who you're talking about, and you can feel free to be a little bit more open. So totally up to you, but I'm just going to hang out here for the next hour and try to watch my email and all the chats. And okay, I've got an email, but it's not from this, so let's look at that later. So how's everybody doing? Who's here today? I can't see. It only shows me there's 2 people in YouTube, but I don't know who they are. So come say hi, tell me how you're doing, and tell me anything new in your world that has made you a low ego action hero lately. And meanwhile, I'm going to stay hydrated. You do too. And did everybody catch our great episode yesterday with Larry Marine? If you didn't, please check the micro lessons playlist to learn about task analysis. That was a goodie. So let's see. I'm just going to wait for questions. If there aren't any, we'll delete this off YouTube. But hopefully someone will have some questions about UX or CX or anything else. I guess I will log into LinkedIn and see if there's anything I'm missing in my chat interface. Normally this doesn't get cooking until about 10 or 15 minutes in, but let's see. Okay, LinkedIn has been notified 2 minutes ago that I'm live. All right, so hopefully we'll see some people joining. 2 people on LinkedIn. Hey, LinkedIners and YouTuber. It is office hours. Ask me anything. So I'm happy to take any questions you have. CX, UX, how to do things, careers, work situations, resumes, jobs. Throw it at me. This is your time to get questions answered for free. And trying to see, hello Push Pendra over in LinkedIn. Sorry, I've got my Surface Pro down here. That's why I'm like, what's happening down here? So there you go. But I'm ready for action, and I'm just here to take questions. So let me know your questions. Other than that, I'll remind you that tomorrow is going to be another micro lesson. I'm going to do my lesson on visual hierarchy, priority of information, and trust signals. This is something that I did for my secret apprentices, and I thought it went well, even though I mostly riff it. It's not a heavily prepared lesson, but I think it's got a lot of cool ideas that we need to work into our interaction design and our solutions. So hopefully people will join or watch that one later on the YouTube channel. Remember, everything is always archived on the YouTube channel, so if you miss any of the live shows, you can always catch them immediately in the YouTube archives. Or if you're curious about me covering a topic, you can always go to YouTube and search Delta CX, insert keyword here, and I'm sure YouTube will find all of the videos I've done that are relevant to that keyword. So always feel free to search. So I'm just waiting for any first questions because this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and I don't talk about anything until someone asks me a question. So who's got a question? Anybody? Anything? It's free. No questions? Everyone's jobs are going well and everything's going great? That's fine by me. What's everybody doing for December adventures? Hopefully you're not traveling. Do not travel. I'm just going to hang out. We're going to turn this into karaoke. That means YouTube will throw ads on it. Hey, I've got 4 people. I think you mean that nicely, but it's hard to tell. Good to see you, Amin. What keeps you coming back? Amin's question is, what keeps you doing this? And I think a good question is back at you, Amin. What keeps you coming? What keeps you showing up? I do this because I find it super fun. And I do this because I always hope that I'm helping somebody. If someone gets a piece of advice that they needed sometime during this hour, wasn't it worth it? I would say so. So I do this because people have questions, people need help, they're not sure who to go to. Lots of other people out there don't do live shows, they do pre-recorded videos, and so they don't know who to ask or when to ask it or how to ask it. So since you know I'm here every Tuesday, you know if you have a question or problem, you can at least get my take on it. You know, whether or not you try what I say or agree with it, that's something else. But I just felt like, especially during 2020, and I'll keep doing this, but who's helping people? Who's helping people for free? I saw so many people earlier this year start charging for their clubs and Discords and Slacks and whatever, Facebook groups, and I just felt like, who's just helping people? And I decided that would be me. So that's why I do it, Amin. Why do you keep showing up? That's what I want to know. What keeps you coming back? Ikening is here. Another good question for Ikening. What keeps you coming back? We've got, and we also have a question from Push Pendra. So let me start grabbing these questions, and because I put them in a little notepad file. Yes, I actually use Notepad. And then I'll make them the, the description of the YouTube video. So let's see. Darren says, I'm ecstatic that you're so dedicated to doing this. Well, thank you. I actually enjoy it. I really do. I don't know what to tell you. You know, for those, while I put these in my system, let me just tell people, you know, I've got a degree in music. I'm a trained singer. And so I'm a bit of a performer at heart. When I was little, hey Ralitza, I used to pretend I had my own radio show. So I think this is just the culmination of things that are fun and natural for me. So you're stuck with me. Now let's take a look at some of the questions we're getting. Let's start with Ikening and then Push Pendra. Ikening says, hey Debbs, I have a question. What is the best way to go about putting together a CX strategy? Whew, that's hard, you know, because Darren says they have to hear you sing. Awesome voice. Thank you, Darren. Darren's covering me in butter today. So the best way to put together a CX strategy, now that depends. In my book, I talk about CX strategy at the department level, so at the company level, at the department level, at the team level, and at the project level. Some people are calling this design ops and research ops, but to me, those are really just words for strategy and of course, how we approach things operationally. So I think that where do we even start? I think it depends what we're looking at. How would I start to put together a CX strategy for the whole company? Cannot be answered here. That just has to be customized for every single company. Department level. Well, at the department level for our CX or UX department, then we've got to look at what are our values as a department? What are our standards? How do we do our work? What's our approach? Is there a particular UX process that we use, or how have we modified one that we find works for us? How do we collaborate with other teammates? When do we keep things to ourselves and make our own decisions? And when do we incorporate other teammates? So I think at the department level, there's a whole bunch of stuff to look at, but I can't say exactly what that is, and that's just some of it. Then, of course, you've got team level and project level. So project level strategy to me is partially, but not wholly, things like, okay, this is the project. What are we doing? Who's doing it? How long does it take? How are we approaching it? If there's research, which methods are we using? How many participants? How long is it going to take us to interpret that and have a report ready? If there's information architecture, interaction design, how many people do we need? How long is that going to take? So I think there's strategy at all different levels. I can't tell you the one right way to do that. I can only say these are some of the things to start to take into consideration if you are trying to create strategy at these levels. But again, no magic bullet here. It's going to be very different. And I also find that strategy is something that tends to be a little bit more natural for people to work on as they get more experienced. So someone who's usually in their first 3 or 4 years of UX or CX work isn't very strong at strategy. I don't expect them to be, but later on, people will have had enough work or jobs where they'll go, aha, here's how we have to approach this. Ekening says, what keeps me coming back is that you've created an amazing community that allows me to gain so much insight into UX from the shoulders of giants. Well, giants like Darren. Well, thank you. Thanks again for covering me in butter as well. And that's why I do it. The end. You just answered the other question. So there you go. And if anyone has follow-up questions, add them. If you have a follow-up question to someone else's question, add it. Let's see. We've got a question from Pushpendra. Can you please explain CX? Sure. So once upon a time, Don Norman had this idea to call something UX, user experience. And his idea, and you can see a video he made on YouTube about this, was that the user experience was absolutely everything related to the product or service or experience. And when you see his video, he tells a story about buying a computer. But of course, he's, talking about the early 90s. So buying a computer meant like going to a computer store and looking at computers and wondering if it's going to fit in your car and wondering if it's too heavy for you to carry. All of these things to Don Norman were part of the user experience. Over time, that definition changed. It's a shame, but the definition changed. Instead of meaning everything that could possibly be about your impressions, your experience, your choices, what buttons you push, what you carry to your car, now UX mostly means digital. It tends to mean, not for everybody, but it tends to mean how we research, architect, design for digital experiences. And then people also think of service design, which tend to be your non-digital experiences. Some people say service design is part of UX. Some people say it's not. But then some years ago, I stumbled on the term CX, customer experience. And there are a few different definitions of customer experience that I found, so even there, not everybody agrees. But what I found was that for some people, CX was a match to Don Norman's original definition of UX. It was about every touch point we have with customers, the physical in-store experience, the online digital experience, an app experience, a wearable experience, all of these things together, including our customer support and some of our other things. This is the customer experience. So I prefer to use the term CX because for some, it's an umbrella term. Some people said, well, that's what I thought UX was. Why can't I say that? Sure, you can say that. The main reason that I've changed my terms, or I'm shifting my terms a little bit, I'll say both, is because I find that unfortunately at many companies, UX is just so misunderstood. They think it's pretty screens. They think it's UI. They think it's make that button blue. And they don't really have understanding or respect for the larger process that we do. And so I think instead of try to convince everybody that their definition of UX is wrong, I think if we just shift to a term that currently matches what Don Norman originally meant, it might just be a better move for us because CX is currently respected. Gartner is constantly doing CX webinars and putting out CX information. It is a bit of a hot term right now, but it's a meaningful term. And right now I feel like UX is I don't see Gartner doing a UX webinar. So while UX is a little bit misunderstood, I think CX is a term for us to shift into to hopefully find more of that respect and autonomy. Thank you, Push Punch. I felt was that okay? Did I get that? And I missed your name now. So Amin says, I'm here because I like the low ego and the welcoming atmosphere of your channel. Thank you. That's what I'm shooting for. This is my dog Diana, and she represents the low ego action hero community. And Amin says, I'm interested in UX, but didn't receive that much education or experience in it, and the interactions in your channel help a lot, whether through recommendations or general discussion. Exactly. If I can help you with anything, or if I can give you something to say, ooh, I should learn more about that. Hooray, everybody wins. You know, I try to create shows here, programs here, where nobody loses, where like nobody walks away the loser, other than design thinking, lean UX, and group workshops. Other than that, we are all winners and the stories end well. Anurag is here. Good to see you. I think you're from my Slack universe. Let's post, let me add your question to my document for later inclusion in the YouTube description. And Anurag says, once you interview stakeholders and users, how do you break down the takeaways from the interview and convert it into useful solutions for the product as part of the research process? I'll put that one up on the screen, and Ahmad, you're next. So let me answer this one first, and then we will look at Ahmad's question. And okay, so once you interview stakeholders and users, how do you break down the takeaways from the interviews and convert it into useful solutions for the product? I think the best answer for that is that there's about 4,000 steps between the interviews and the solutions. Certainly, if you saw the session we did last night here live, we had Larry Marine showing a task analysis. That is a multi-step process that comes between interviews and solutions. So I would say for starters, go to the micro lessons playlist and find task analysis. That might answer your question because it's a great technique that Larry teaches that is something between interviews and observational studies and going in the right direction to consider where we should go with the product. Thank you, Pushpendra. So I think that would be one way, but I find that after I do qualitative research and I'm reviewing my notes and I'm putting together my ideas, I'm looking for patterns, I'm doing my deductive reasoning, and I've got my detective hat on, I would say many of these things sometimes naturally start surfacing, like, wow, customers really are struggling over there. Another thing Larry recommends is that after you do his task analysis and then the optimized task flow, you then prioritize the opportunities that you found. And I think when you can show some opportunities and what you feel is the priorities of those, or actually in his model, he combines priority scores from the UX team, I think it was the business side, and the technical feasibility side, then everybody can figure out what are we working on. And it's definitely more collaborative than UX is over here trying to research something, product is making a roadmap come hell or high water. Who cares what UX thinks? I'm making a roadmap. So we have to find more ways to bring that together. Oh, Shelly's here. Hi, Shelly. Because Shelly is from instructional design, I think. Shelley says, I find your content engaging, enlightening, and highly transferable to the ISD profession. I've learned so much that I've applied right away. Thank you. See? Worth doing, everybody. Thank you. You're going to make me cry. So let's go to Ahmad's question, though I see it, and I already know I don't have a great answer. So let's take a look. The question is there a single scale to measure simplicity of a task, or is there a way we can use multiple established scales like NPS, UUP, CSAT to measure this? Okay, so first of all, make sure that if your metric really is simplicity of a task, how are you going to measure that? NPS doesn't measure that. Net Promoter Score, R in a circle, I learned it's their registered trademark, so R in a circle. NPS is supposed to be a representation of customer loyalty. Would you recommend us to your friends and colleagues? Give us a score of 0 to 10. So that does not measure task simplicity. That is a larger score of customer satisfaction. I think CSAT is as well. UUP, I'm not recognizing that, so let me Google that quickly. UUP. Oh, I got a stock called UUP, and they appeared to be doing well. I got a political party in Northern Ireland. Okay, I think I'm not doing very well right now. Sorry, my throat's a little raw. I just recorded 70 minutes of perspectives videos right before this that I'm going to need to edit another day. I am not seeing UUP, but again, let's just make sure that when we are looking at, if you want to know task simplicity, then you are probably looking at things like task errors. You might be looking at how many steps it takes somebody to do the task. You might be looking at time on task. And also, again, I would suggest to you to watch our video last night from Larry Marine's task analysis, because another question might be, are there any steps of this task that the system could take over through automation or other technology? By now, Google should know what you mean by UUP. No, I got a stock and I got a political party in Northern Ireland. What does UUP stand for? And I will Google that. So, and again, because some of these are sometimes come from the marketing department, I am not as familiar with them. But again, make sure you are measuring what you intend to measure, because NPS, if it's measuring general customer satisfaction with your overall company or product, that's not going to tell us simplicity of a task. So it's really important to be measuring and researching these tasks more specifically. So maybe see last night's micro lesson on task analysis. That might give you some ideas. And if someone can't tell me what UUP is, I'm gonna have to just abandon ship. And Anurag says, awesome answer as always. Thanks. I hope it helps. And the micro lesson from last night is a good one for everybody to check out. I do not know UUP. What if I write UUP marketing? A lot of these scores are sometimes marketing. No, now I've got a company called UUP Marketing. All right, that's not happening. Peeps, I am Googling this and I am not getting squat. UUP UX, is this something we do? No, now I'm getting, no. Now I think you're just messing with me. There is no UUP. Utility, usability, and presentation. Now let's Google that. Utility, usability, presentation score. Utility, usability, and presentation. Okay, so it sounds like presentation has to do with aesthetics, how attractive somebody thinks something is. That's not simplicity. So again, if I'm going by Ahmad's question, the question is, how do I measure simplicity? Well, how pretty it is ain't about how simple it is. So, now they're also saying system usability scale, SUS. I gotta tell you this. Oh, here we go. Oh, UUP score pronounced up score. Sorry, bumped into my microphone. UUP score. This system's capability met my requirements. This system is easy to use. This system is aesthetically pleasing. Well, is any of those simplicity? Is any of those now? And is simplicity? If Larry, I'm going to channel Larry Marine, who's not here, and say, are you really trying to measure simplicity? What is the end goal of what we really want to know? Usually, it's, did we solve people's problems? Did we understand their problems correctly? Did we solve their problems? Did we improve something in the system that made it better, faster, easier, cheaper for them to accomplish a task? That's it. I would measure that. Because what does simplicity really mean? Does it mean, ooh, white space? Does it mean, ooh, 7 clicks? Ultimately, what Ahmad says, just another self-made metric by a company head. Maybe. I don't know. I can only say that in a vacuum, if you said to me, hey, Deb, this scored well for simplicity, I would go, great. Is it helping people accomplish their task? Did we build something that solved people's problems? Did we find the right problems and solve the right problems? Congratulations on your wonderful simplicity score. So I'm usually not too seduced by these scores. I don't use them myself. I am more of an observational research person. I'm going to watch someone do this. I'm going to figure out if this is simple to them, if this is a problem solver to them, if this achieves their goals and helps them with their task to them. Ahmad says, thanks, great answer. What common metrics can we use to measure these? Again, I'm more qualitative than quantitative. So I think that I would be doing more observational research, and I would be finding, I am more likely to try to find where this isn't simple and why. Then congratulations, you have a score of 8.37 repeating. So I am usually not the person talking a lot about metrics. I think we do need some metrics, but I would rather see metrics that tie us to ROI and making the company money and saving the company money, and let a lot of our analysis of the customer or user be qualitative and based on more on observation. Let's take a question from Derek. Oh, and Amin says, hold on. We've got Amin and then Derek. So give me a moment, everybody, to paste these into the official thing. All right. So Amin says, send. How can we measure user engagement, state of flow, within a given task? I'm planning to do an experiment soon. I'd like to see if user engagement has the effect of their brain behavior via EEG. So again, I think this requires more definition. What does engagement mean? Does it mean that it's entertaining? Does it mean that they spend more time on it? Does it mean that their task was so simple, here's your simplicity, that they spent less time on it? Does it mean they clicked more? Do any of these mean shit? Because if people spent more time and clicked more, who cares if it doesn't help them accomplish their task? So again, everybody, be careful of some of these vanity metrics. I think we did a vanity metrics podcast eons ago. You can look that up. Delta CX vanity metrics. Google will serve it up to you. So I'm worried that everybody's trying to measure things that may or may not be important. So, what user engagement is important? Is it that they bought something? Is it that they found something? Is it that they paid their bill? What is the engagement? Why is that important? And why are we hooking them up to an EEG? We better have a good reason to do that, because that is getting a little bit personal. Are you going to be shaving their chest? I mean, what's going on here? And yikes. Let's move to Derek's question while we let Amin think about that one. Derek says, how to convince clients... let's put it up. Welcome, Derek. How to convince clients on the importance of the process, and especially the UX research, when all they want is high fidelity screens. Yeah, I think we get that question every week, so I feel ya. And again, I pretty much wrote a book about this, but that would be my Delta CX book. I think that for the most part, some companies will not be convinced. Some companies want so badly to not change that they're not going to be convinced. And if they are going to be convinced, it might not be your job. It might be your manager's job. Remember, to convince someone of the importance of UX is really to start changing what's happening at your company. Who has the power to change what's happening at your company? It might not be you, and that's okay. I don't expect you to change your whole company. Sabrina says, you crack me up. Sabrina, I'm happy to see you. How's the north going? Are you guys freezing cold yet? Okay. So ultimately, I think the companies that can be convinced, and I say this week after week, are probably going to be convinced by information about money spent or money saved. I think I have some other videos on this, and I'm going to shoot a new one on my next perspectives round. Not today, I'm burnt out. But ultimately, and I think I have some of this in maybe my Agile slides, which was like episode 32, UX and Agile in the podcasts playlist. But basically, someone is going to have to do the math on what it costs our companies to get it wrong, to release something that the customers found was wrong for them or low quality or didn't solve their problems. And someone's got to do the math to say, what time did we spend on that? What's burning customer trust costing us? What's using more customer support costing us? What does stopping project B to fix project A cost us? And I think eventually when we can put this into numbers, either estimated numbers or real numbers because of projects at our companies that have gone all messed up, and hands up, who has seen a project at their company go all messed up and we had to fix it later, someone knows what that cost. But very often it's hidden in another budget, and we pretend that the original project was a wonderful success and we hide the budget to fix it. So Derek, I personally believe that not a lot is going to change at many companies until someone has the you-know-whats to do this math and say, by the way, every time we get this wrong, here's where our stock price dropped, or here's where we burnt more customer support time, or here's where sales couldn't sell it, or things like that. And to be able to say, this is what this cost us. And it's even in Lean Six Sigma, and I think regular Six Sigma. You can look up and Google the heck out of this. It's called cost of poor quality. And we did an episode on this as well with Deborah H. I'm forgetting her initials right now, but we talked about cost of poor quality. There are internal costs, morale, redos, fixing it, figuring out what went wrong. And then there's external stuff, environmental waste, public grumpiness on Twitter, blah, blah, blah. So we can look up cost of poor quality. We have to start estimating and calculating these things. And I think the people higher up in our company don't care about, oh, the customer is not totally happy. They don't care. That's how we know we just have empathy. Just have empathy doesn't do anything. It doesn't make things happen. So that's why we're going to have to show them the math and go, this is the money we're burning. This is the money we didn't make, because we release garbage. And then I think people will start to change. But I think at some companies they're not going to change until someone has the you-know-whats to do that. I can say you-know-whats, right? Hey, this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we're live. And of course, empathize with the like button. Let the YouTube algorithm know you like this and you come back every week. Amin says, the task is not CX related, but an engineering design problem. I want to deeply understand if their engagement with the task has any correlation with their brain behavior. Why? Why do we care about their brain behavior? Unless this is academic research on a scientific level and your hypothesis is around brain activity. If this is an app or a website, why are we putting electrodes on people? Let's not put electrodes on people. Just a thought. Z Windley, who I think is Zero Windley, just from memory, says amen to that. If I had $1 for every time that happened. I don't know which thing you're referring to. I always tell people don't use pronouns because by the time I read it, I don't know what that refers to. But good to see you here. Amin says, yes, academic, you got it. Yeah, so again, if you are doing academic stuff, you're usually in a very different universe than some of us who are working more corporate stuff or government stuff. I'm more corporate and agency stuff. I'm not academic, and I'm usually not. Zeno, thank you. I thought it was, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Though Zero's a cool name. Makes me think of Zero Mostel. That must have been what's in my head. Do you guys know Zero Mostel? I know him really old and crumbly, and he was an old actor and comedian in America in like the 60s. Now I've aged myself. Oh no, I'm from forever ago. But his name was Zero, so that must have been what was in my head. Sorry, Zeno. Yeah, so if you're doing academic research, you're going to do crazy crap that I may or may not be for. But again, try not to do any of these things without a damn good reason, because I can't think of a good reason to try to figure out someone's brainwaves if really ultimately other aspects of their behavior are what's more important. Because what my brainwaves are and what I do or think, it might be different. So, make sure the brainwaves are really important and central to whatever you're doing. Otherwise, it sounds like a little bit of academic words I shouldn't use live on YouTube. things. There you go. So we've got another question from, so Ahmad, are you Ahmad or Ahmad? Oh, good. Z knows it. Yes. Z knows Zero Michelle, and then sees why I got the names mixed up. So I've got a question from, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're Ahmad or Ahmad. And then we've got Dr. Sebastian. How are you doing? How's your wife doing? Let's see. So let's start with Ahmad's follow-up question. What do you do if you're replacing a designer on a product and they're done with the research phase but have nothing documented? How do you quickly get up to speed in such a situation? Okay, I've been in a similar situation, and I'm going to assume based on your question that not only do you have no documentation, but that designer's already gone. And so basically you have nothing. Obviously, the first thing I would do is bring to the attention of management the lack of, remember we talked about strategy at the team level and the department level and the project level? That can't happen. We cannot have a research project where you have no recordings of the research or no videos or no notes. So first of all, this shouldn't happen. And this should be something that management needs to know. If the other person's still works there, we're not trying to get them in trouble, but we are trying to make it known that if that person didn't work there, so if that person doesn't work there and you have no access to them, this is super bad. If the person works there, you've got to go get what we call the KT in America, the knowledge transfer. And you've got to have a meeting with them and learn everything you can from them. I don't care what anybody says, you have to make that happen. If that person is not there, they quit, they were fired, they're on medical leave, they're on maternity leave, they have COVID, whatever it might be, then you definitely have to go to a manager and say, this can't happen ever again. I can't come in on this project and be expected to pick up where this person left off, but have no notes or documentation from anything they've done. And therefore, I'm going to redo their research. That's what I would say. I would just have to say, if I cannot get any information about this person's previous research and they didn't document it, and our team has nothing in place, no standards that say that this has to be documented in this way when you do this research, then y'all are going to have to watch me redo the research. And I would just do that. And they might be like, no, too late. We don't have time, blah, blah, blah. I go, I can't work from nothing. I just can't. So I'm going to need a week. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, do it as fast as you can, but do it well. That's what I would do. Dr. Sebastian says, hi, Debbie. Hi. In your opinion, do you see a difference between task and activity? If so, how do you describe this difference? Yeah, I wish we had Larry Marine here because I'm curious what his answer would be because it might be different than mine. But I would say a task is made up of activities or a task is made up of steps. A task implies that there is something someone is doing that has a very specific goal or outcome or end point. Yes, an activity can also have those things. So maybe these words are a little bit interchangeable, but I guess I kind of think of it as a task is made up of steps or activities. Maybe an activity is a subtask of some sort, but I would say, who cares? I don't want to get too semantic over this. Can a task have steps? But I think task is a good word because it reminds people that there is a goal. There's a reason we're doing this. I think activity can accidentally sound a little fluffy. Like, yeah, I'm doing an activity. If it works, great. I accomplish things, whatever. But when we say task, I think that's just got a little bit more weight to it. But again, that could just be my interpretation of words. So you tell me what you think. But you're on LinkedIn, so you might be a few minutes behind due to lag. Everyone join YouTube. Let's go with Derek's new question. Okay, let's put it up on the screen because I can put YouTube questions up on the screen. What to do when you are working on an application and you see strategic issues within the flow or journey, and without addressing them, you may not be able to address the design problem. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's just like the task analysis we did last night with Larry here on this channel over in the micro lessons playlist. if your company or team only wants you to address design issues or the pretty screens or things like that, and you are not able to influence any of the larger strategy of the product or other things, I would take it to management and see if there's something they can push. Because sometimes it's just that you're not at the level where you can push something that looks strategic. But again, sometimes companies really don't want to change. They don't understand CX and UX, and they think, they see designer in our title and they think we just design pretty things, which is another reason why actually I'm pushing for us to no longer be called designers. I would like visual designers to be called designers, and I would like us to be called architects. I think software architects are highly respected, and I would like to see CX architects highly respected and not just thought of as pretty screen people and people who can fix anything in the design. We can't fix everything in the design. There's sometimes garbage from other universes or bad strategy, bad flow, bad journey, bad product, bad feature. Can't fix that in the design or the UX, the interaction design, the architecture. So there. Oh, I forgot to check if I have anonymous questions. Oh my gosh, I have anonymous questions. I am so sorry. People are sending these like half an hour ago. Oh my gosh, I got so caught up I didn't see them. Okay, we have 4 anonymous questions. I promise to catch up on all 4 of you now. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Okay, so let's take a look at these. First one is, in terms of the UX project management process, is it standard practice for UX practitioners to work from a Jira board or backlog? Should UX practitioners be included in stand-ups? Love these questions. Thank you to the person who asked them. It's anonymous. So when it comes to UX project management, I have worked from, let's see, now not sponsored. I use teamwork.com if I need a more overarching look at the project, and if I really need a granular Jira type ticket system, I like AHA, AHA. It's kind of expensive, but if you need it at that level, I like AHA. You could use Jira, but not everybody finds it user-friendly. So what I think is you could work in Jira, absolutely, or you could work in another system, but ultimately you've definitely got to have project management in place. That may be something strategic that is decided for the department. Hey, in this department, this is how we do internal project management. We use Teamwork, we use AHA, we use Monday, we use whatever. I don't care what you use, but I do like AHA. Take a look at AHA, not sponsored. Should UX practitioners be included in stand-ups? I kind of don't think stand-ups should exist. I feel like they're a waste of time, and if the whole idea is to see who's blocked, why didn't someone proactively say, hey, I'm blocked? Why did we wait until tomorrow at 10 a.m. to learn you're blocked? So I have to say I don't love stand-ups in general, but I believe and I do recommend that UX go to as many engineering meetings as possible, because when we are not at engineering meetings, they like to make decisions in UX without us. So I do recommend going to engineering meetings, even if you bring your computer and you say, I'm kind of working on something else, I'm half listening, but if UX stuff comes up, I'm here, get my attention. So there you go. So yes, try to go to stand-ups, even though in general, I think the idea of stand-ups just seems a little bit flawed to me. UX doesn't do it. If I have a problem, I go to my manager immediately. I don't know. Z says, I like the architect title too. Ahmad says, yes, coming from CS background, architect would be great. Yes, I don't want to be a designer, because those of you who have gotten to know me know I am a terrible artist, terrible. So I hate being called designer, because I just know someone's going to think I'm an artsy fartsy hipster, and I'm not. Okay, back to the questions. Thank you so much for waiting. This one was from half an hour ago. Could you expand on usability testing? What's the minimalistic approach? What steps, artifacts can we use if we don't have much time to do this study? Can we run it in conjunction with user acceptance testing at the same time? Whoa. Okay, so obviously I am not going to be your best source for the fastest and cheapest way to do things, since I'm more about doing things right. But I would say if I had very little time and very little budget to do usability testing, I would make the most realistic actual prototype I could, even if it didn't have visual design, even if it's medium fidelity. I would come up with some key tasks that I want to test the usability of. So remember that usability testing is usually task-based. Can the user do this? If in our concept, can they figure this out? Can they get here? So create that prototype, create the tasks, and then normally I chuck it into one of those unmoderated systems. Right now I'm paying for Userlytics. Not sponsored, but really, many of them are quite similar. Whoever you like is, I'm sure, going to be fine. And then I can say, let's get 5 people who fit our personas. So you have to do some screening, but usually these come with screeners. Do some quick screening and say, I need 5 people who are going to do this. And I find very often, even with 5, we can find some early bugs. I remind people that usability testing is the QA of UX. We're trying to work out the bugs. So at least get 5 people. If you have time to fix those bugs and do another round, great. But we're trying to work out bugs from not just our concept, but the execution of the concept. So I don't want us to go too fast or cheap on this, but there you go. And as for user acceptance testing, I always think of that as more of a QA thing and not so much of what we're doing. So like every time I see, I'm just double checking the definition of user acceptance testing to make sure it is what I think it is. Basically, it says it is the last phase of the software testing process. Usually that's when you have a real build from the developers or engineers, and you are trying to make sure that everything ultimately fits. That's where the QA team or others are looking at the acceptance criteria. Sometimes we're not involved in that. So I would say that from the concept level, you can run your usability tests on a prototype. They would not be run on a developer build because that's too late. When we find out our bugs, you don't want to make developers rebuild. Now, we're not saving time, money, and sanity. We are time, money, and sanity wasters. So user acceptance testing is normally not necessarily on our plate, so I'm not totally sure why you're asking about it. So no, I don't think it can be combined with usability testing. The end. Okay, next anonymous question. I am so sorry that I didn't see this. These are from some time ago. Thank you for your patience. I got so caught up with the chat rooms, I'm juggling too much. Anonymous question. When applying to new jobs, can your portfolio be simple? If so, how simple? I'm having difficulty finding the time to perfect my portfolio because of my current job. Yeah, I hear this a lot. And I think it's important to make that time, whether that's evening or weekends. I think you've got to make that time. And so how simple can it be? Well, watch episode 54 where I talk about some portfolio do's and don'ts. So ultimately, it's got to have some storytelling where I can figure out what the heck is going on here. And it's got to show some process. You've got to tell me what you did. If you don't have some of the basics in there, then I look at it and I go, not impressed. Not impressed. Remember, a portfolio is online dating. It's speed dating. I'm hearing that hiring managers will look at a portfolio for 90 seconds and decide whether or not they want to interview you. If you have gone too lean, too minimal on it, you run the risk that I go, meh. Thank you. My last question was, don't forget anonymous question. Sorry, for some reason my email isn't popping up the you got an email, which I usually get. So I don't know what happened. Something's blocked there. Okay, I'm on the anonymous questions now, everybody. Thank you. Someday I'll have a producer and they'll help me with this and won't be a one-woman show. So I think there's nothing wrong with a simple portfolio. I've got to admit mine is very simple. But mine has storytelling. I start out with a story of the project, about that tall, and then I just do little blur. I do a picture and an explanation of what's in that picture. Picture, explanation of what's going on there. And it's too simple. It needs a little bit more love. It needs some better storytelling. But I do have people who looked at it this year and said, oh, I liked your sense of humor, or hey, looks like you do some great work. So I think that you've got to have something, and You don't want it to be too simple. You want it to be compelling. So, don't go for minimum viable portfolio. Go for compelling portfolio. And if that means you've got to put hours into it, please find them. Because if you're asking me this question, you're not thrilled with your job. You're asking it anonymously. You want a new job. You've got to make that time to improve your portfolio. I remember one of my previous jobs after I'd quit, a coworker was like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here, but I've got 2 young kids and this job is so demanding. And I said, you got to make time or you're going to be stuck here forever. And she's like, yeah, I really want to go. She stayed like 1.5 years and then they fired the entire building. And then she wasn't ready. She was like, I'm like, now you got to do your portfolio. So don't wait for that. That's bad. Hey, we've got 10 more minutes, so I'm happy to take a few more questions. I promise to watch the anonymous ones a little bit better. Maybe I'll see if they're popping up on my phone. Let's see. I have some very strange tweets at me. Okay, so I'll try to keep an eye on that. Hey, don't forget, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe, ring the bell, and empathize with the like button. Give that a loving tap. Lots of love over here. And what else can I tell you? Let's see. Ralitsa's got a question. Let's copy and paste that. Okay. Ralitz is looking for me to dish the dirt and name names, and that's not going to totally fly. But Darren's here. Let's see if he's up for it. Darren, want to name some names? Ralitza says, can you share some people in UX that are popular and you don't think are very trustworthy or worth listening to? Well, I think the only one there's probably only 2 I'm comfortable saying out loud. I think one, because I've had such a long-standing feud with this person that has become public, that if I say it, no one's going to go, what? I am a great enemy of, and this person is a great enemy of me. I am an anti-fan of Jared Spool. Ralitza says it can be damaging to listen to the wrong people. I agree. I'm an anti-fan of Jared Spool. I think most of his messages are harmful to our profession. Does he always say terrible things? No, he said some good things. But I think in general, a lot of his training and catchphrases and stuff have been hurtful to us. If you want to see me burn his most famous conference talk to the ground, look for, I don't remember what episode it was, but it's a live stream podcast. It's in the live stream podcast playlist, and it's called The UX Tipping Point of Pal Mickey. I am also not a fan of Jeff, what's his name, who wrote the Lean UX book. I don't believe in anything he says or does, and I don't recommend his training, his books, or his model. Darren says, not big on sharing names, but providing the scenarios provides ability for folks to apply across the board. Yeah, that was my next step after I was going to name the 2 names I've named before. So since I've named those before and everybody knows I don't like those, and it's not personal. I've never met Jeff from Lean UX. I have met Jared in person, and ooh, that wins for awkward. But I would say look for what these people's messages are. Look out for people who are over cheerleading. Yeah, you're great. You're going to do it. You're fine. Keep going. That's nice. And support's good. But the problem is not everybody can get trophies and confetti. I think good mentors and coaches are going to give you some tough love and say, hey, you said something weird there. Hey, your presentation could be better. Hey, how about you fix and change this? So look out for over cheerleaders. Look out for fake it till you make it people. Look out for anybody who's like, hey, you can work in UX with no credentials and no whatever. And I just, I lied my way into UX and I was a graphic designer and I just started saying UX and whoa, now I'm making 6 figures. I can't name any of those people in particular, but I know they're out there on YouTube. I know they have 10 times the subscribers that I do. And I feel badly about that, not from a vanity sense, but because y'all are buying it. So I think that be careful, to me, it's more be careful of the advice than be careful of the person. I just happen to dislike 2 people and I'll say that. They would probably say me, so that's fine. So be careful of, hey, it's easy to get into UX, just learn it, and yeah, just do this. You don't need credentials, you don't need whatever. That's not true. It's just not true. Be careful of people who have something to sell at your expense. Like, for example, I sell my Acture training. That shouldn't be at your expense. Nobody gets hurt. But there's some, I think, look at, I guess the better thing to say is look at the possible outcomes of some of the advice that people give. So take, for example, Jared Spool loves to say, everybody's a designer. Everybody at our company is a designer. Everybody's working on product. Everybody's a designer. That sounds cool. People quote it. They put it places. What if that really happened at your job? What if your job genuinely saw everybody as a UX designer, product, engineering, marketing? If your company actually followed through on what Spool sells, where's your job? Are you specialized? Do we need you? So I say, look for the possible outcomes of what if this person's advice or model or training came true. Do we benefit from everybody's a designer? Does my job get better? Do I have more autonomy? Do I have more decision-making power when my company believes everybody's a UX designer? I don't think so. I think that works against the profession. So I think I tell people, listen for the people who are raising us up as a profession and walk away from the people who the possible outcomes of what they're saying could hurt our respect, hurt our autonomy. Walk away from all the people saying democratize everything. The outcome of democratization is everybody makes decisions in UX. Well, that's funny. I don't remember anyone inviting me to make decisions in product, marketing, engineering, DevOps, or HR. Why are we only democratizing UX? So look out for all, and remember, sometimes I see horses in the race. Sometimes there are user research software companies who say democratize research. Well, sure, you get to sell more licenses. You've got a horse in the race. I don't have a picture of a horse. I only have the 4 horsemen. So be careful of the message more than the person, because everybody says good things and everybody says bad things. There are going to be, I joke, if you like, I say if 85% of people like 85% of the things I'm saying, I'm doing great. There are going to be things I say that you don't like, but think about the possible outcomes. I try not to say anything that has a shitty possible outcome for the CX or UX profession. I want to see us strengthened. I want to see us understood and respected. I want to see us getting better jobs, better pay, reasonable jobs. I want us to stop being bullied at the workplace. I want us to stop being seen as an order-taking pair of hands group of artists. Looking at the comments, Darren says, it's ironic that many popular folks aren't saying anything. It's like Don Norman's statements about how people accept things that look good are working against many of us. Most of today's books just plain stink and are nothing more than Trojan horses. Yeah, Darren and I have had some conversations about how many UX books are coming out now that are just compilations of other people's ideas. No thanks. No, I don't want to give you a tip that you can put in a book of X number of tips. That's freaking my tip. Like, you're going to get paid for that book. What am I going to get paid? Z says, I wish we had to have credentials to weed out people that change the words in their resume from graphic designer to UX. I agree, but I also noticed that between the portfolio or an interview, I can quickly spot those people. I can tell when their work is heavily visual, graphic design, aesthetics. I can tell when they don't understand accessibility. And of course, when you ask them, what is your UX process? I once asked somebody who claimed to be the unicorn, front-end developer, UX genius, visual designer. I said, I was interviewing him for a job. What's your UX process? And he said, I just go into Adobe Illustrator. And I said, oh, no, I think you must have misunderstood my question. I said, you must have a UX process, an approach to your work. And he goes, yeah, I just opened Adobe Illustrator and I design. Okay, graphic designer. Got it. Amin is covering me in butter today. This is why I love coming to this channel. Clear, straight advice. That's what I shoot for. That's all I want to be. I just want to be the voice of reason. Again, you may not always agree with my opinions. You may not always like them. You may love design thinking. I hate it. But I think that when it comes to listening to the gurus out there, play out the possible outcomes of their advice. You know, there's a self-proclaimed guru out there who says your UX portfolio should only be a PDF. Why? What's wrong with it being a website for people who want to see a web version and a PDF for the people who want a PDF version? Why does this person have to act like this is the one true way? I, the Lord, am your God. It doesn't make sense. Darren says, Z and I worked at a place where I used to keep the company from hiring those folks. Eventually, they hit a candidate and hired him anyway. Yeah, and of course, when they know you're going to not vote for those folks, they stop inviting you to the interviews, and that's when you know it's time to go. So office hours usually ends now, but I don't think I have any appointments after right now. If anybody wants me to stay a few more minutes and ask a couple of questions, please do ask them. I'm here for you every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. I usually stay around an hour. These are always archived in the YouTube office hours playlists, so you'll find it there right away. You can always watch any of our videos at 1.5x, 2x, you know, totally up to you. You can, I try to speak at a normal pace and deliberately, but if you are super good with English, you can watch faster if you'd like. Darren says, yes, information visualization. So again, if anybody has any last questions, please ask them now. I am watching my email, so it can be anonymously. Also, you can ask questions all week long at deltacx.link/AMA, and I will put you on the list to be answered first next Tuesday. Remember, tomorrow is a micro lesson that I'm doing. I'm going to riff it, but it's going to be fun. Microsoft Excel recalc or die. Check out Edward Tuft. I don't know what that's about. Microsoft Excel. Oh, I didn't even see that question. Okay, why didn't it come up? It looks like it got blocked by my system. I don't know why. So I see it now, and I'll put it up on the screen, but my other system blocked it. All right, so let's answer this question, and I'll just have to type it by hand. Any advice on UX data, displays, dashboards, design, ? Okay, thanks, Microsoft Excel recalc or die. I had not, yeah, thank you. I hadn't seen that. It just didn't show up in my system, and I apologize. So thanks for Darren for responding to him. Darren says, check out Edward Tuft. Now, I think before we worry about the data display of dashboards, we have to take a little bit of a Larry Marine approach, and we have to ask ourselves what should even be on the dashboard and why. And the main thing is that a dashboard, to me, has to be actionable. There has to be some reason we're showing these people information, and then what can they do about it? I think a lot of dashboards are badly designed, not because we picked the wrong chart type, but because the information wasn't really important, or it wasn't a helpful trend or piece of data, or it wasn't actionable. It was like, oh, I had 7 people sign up to my mailing list this week, so what? You know, does that matter? Is that something I'm measuring? So I would say step 1 is make sure that your dashboard has things on it that are meaningful, useful, actionable. And then work to figure out the best way to display that. So any advice on data displays? I had read a book, but like in 2014, I don't know if it was Edward Tuft. It was this giant coffee table book, and it was about like data visualizations. And it was like box and whiskers chart versus this type of histogram versus this. I thought it was helpful, though it was a very long read. Darren says, yep, many dashboards are usually designed to be pretty instead of practical. So pretty's great, but we have to make sure that the dashboard is meaningful, because as Larry was saying to me yesterday or today, the dashboard is the middle of a process. It's the middle of a task. Something you find out in the dashboard might lead you to do something else. The dashboard is the middle of a task. What is the end? What is the end of that task? Design the dashboard for where people have to go with that data or information. Make it more actionable. Bring those actions right into the dashboard screen. Don't make them go chase them somewhere else in your system. Don't give them an errand. Hopefully that helps. And what Darren said. I think, did I miss anything else? I don't want to miss anything else, but I am juggling a lot of things. Any last questions before we wind up for the day? If not, that's okay. If not, I will start winding down. Yeah, it's the middle of the process for sure. If not, let's start winding down. And just a reminder to everybody, I'll be live again tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Italy time, with my super fun off-the-cuff micro lesson on visual hierarchy, priority of information, and trust signals. So this is a little bit in the information architecture, interaction design universe, and it should really give you some fresh perspective on some things that you should build. It's really aimed a little bit more at junior or mid-level. Chances are senior and higher already know this stuff, but especially if you're more junior or mid-level, I think this will be a great thing for you to add to your arsenal and your approaches in IA and interaction design. All of the live streams are 6:30 p.m. Italy time, because I live in Italy, so please adjust for you. So if you're East Coast America, that's going to be -6, 12:30 p.m. I always try to stream at the same time, so always look for me, 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Adjust for your time zone, 9:30 a.m. in California, 5:30 p.m. in the UK. South Africa, I always forget because you change times funny when I don't know. And India, I think you're +4.5 right now, so that would be, I think I start 11 p.m. in India now that we changed clocks, right? India? Anybody here from India today? If so, go to sleep. It's midnight. Go to sleep. So yeah, that's good. All right. I think we're cool. Thanks to everybody who joined and who had questions and comments today. Good to see Darren, and good to see usual friends of the show and some new friends. And I hope to see everybody soon. Be well, do the right things, wear your mask, come on. And other than that, see everybody tomorrow. Thanks, and wrong button. And good night. And greetings from Peru. I don't know what time it is there. See you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.